What is going on? Welcome back to Financial Journey. So today I want to talk to you on Lucid. Lucid's Q3 earnings is exactly 1 week away. I want to give you an overview of some of the current data points, what they're saying, and as well what some analysts have recently been doing. Before I get into any of that, make sure to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that, let's get right to it. So it did close 1.23% in the green, a lot of volatility. So 418 the high and 404 is the low. 20.09 million shares being traded, 27 is the average. At the time of doing this video, no SEC filings, no press releases, nothing like that. So it is just kind of coasting with the broader market. There has been a lot of optimism, oddly enough, with the latest round of 13Fs. So this is disclosures on what institutions did during Q3 to the SEC. And oddly enough, a lot of institutions have been increasing. And plus you can see a lot of Vanguard ETFs did increase their position. So when it comes down to Vanguard itself disclosing their 13F, which will be tail end of this week, if not early next week, alongside BlackRock, most likely they'll probably increase their position around 40%. That's just my guess, not financial advisor, of course. And today, these are some of the transactions that did occur on the secondary market over $100,000. So after hours, Lucid was on fire. So 25 million, 4.1 million, there was a ton of big transactions, and this is very abnormal compared to many of the other days. So this was pretty much what made up the most of the volume for today. So I'll give you an overview of some of the current data points and something that came out that once again they do need to talk on for their upcoming Q3 earnings. Starting off with options. So $214,000 in calls being purchased versus $883,000 in puts. So overall today, 72% bearish. So still a lot of people are assuming that Lucid is going to continue to break down. And as far as the specifics for calls though, it is anticipated to encumber their earnings. So for the November 10th expiry date, it's kind of anticipated to be roughly between the 450 and 550 range. So kind of not much upside, oddly enough. And if you are looking at the puts, it is anticipated to be sub around $4. But no matter what, just take that all with a grain of salt, because options activity doesn't move the stock price at all. It is just merely a sentiment. I'll give you an overview of what shorts did before I go over some other data points. So short score is 87, utilization is 96.23, and shorts did return roughly around 914,000 shares. 25.44% of the free float is being shorted, and 223.72 million shares overall are being shorted. Through the interactive broker, short availability does indicate that there's around 20,000 shares available to be shorted. And cost of borrow average is 12.4, so kind of in line with yesterday. And leading into their earnings, I get there's been some issues with Lucid that they do have to address during the upcoming earnings, but having 25 or 26% short interest, that is very, very high. And speaking on some things that they need to really address, there was this that was posted on Twitter, and so obviously this individual posting, I guess, was hired as a guard for the Casa Grande facility, which is fairly good, but there was also another post that he did say, so it says protecting thousands of new cars for Lucid Motors, which in reality is very, very good. I love this view, but this also has a little bit more of a double-edged meaning because there shouldn't be thousands of vehicles that's kind of lying around. Similar to a lot of videos floating around about, I guess, Tesla and having over demand or kind of lack of demand issues. So once again, this is something that Lucid does need to bring up. And speaking on their upcoming earnings though, I'll give you an overview of this. So of course, there's earnings per share, revenue, future guidance. Those are the big three things to really watch for. And earnings per share, currently there's around 9 analysts that have a consensus of negative 35 cents per share. And that did actually improve. So one analyst was a little bit more optimistic, at least in the short term, for their upcoming earnings. And when it comes down to revenue, one analyst was a little bit more bearish. So it did go from 7 to 8 analysts and went from 207 to 183 million. So that one analyst that did get on and give a rating on this wasn't necessarily that optimistic. So once again, that most likely might be Citi because they did give a rating today and they gave a $4.70 price target. Even though that individual only does have a 38% success rating, which is kind of pathetic, but you never know. That could obviously be them really downgrading the revenue. And I think the lower revenue might be associated to the lower delivery numbers that they did do during Q3. But once again, they will need to address that. And also, if you're looking for a lot of good compiled information such as analyst ratings, forecasts, everything under the sun, take a look at Interactive Brokers for all of this to be completely free. Link in the description below and also the comments. So I just wanted to cap it all off before I go into the technicals with this, just to see if there's been any changes, because typically they ask roughly about the first 3 to 5 questions. So the first one is there any plans to stop the current slide of stock prices? What are the efforts Lucid is going to be doing for that? The second one is, what is the plan for Lucid to expand their operations and start becoming a profitable company? I like a lot of these questions, as what I said last time, but whether Lucid is in a position to answer it, I do not think so. So they'll probably neglect this one completely. What are Lucid Motors' plans to increase production throughout 2024? This one's a good one. Once again, I don't know if they'll be able to answer that directly, because they're actually, that, to be fully honest, as I've said every single earnings, that's one thing that Sherry and Peter are really bad at, is just direct questions. They kind of go way around it. They start talking about technology, but they never really answer it exactly. So hopefully this time around they kind of do that. And what will Lucid do to prevent cash burn per vehicle? So obviously this one they can't really talk on. Same goes for a lot of these operational ones. It's just kind of out of their control until they really ramp up on production. So it all does come down to that. This one question I really kind of like, because I think at this stage in the game, like, they need to do it soon, but who knows? Maybe they don't care. And I've already done a video essentially why they might be doing a reverse stock split potentially, but during the earnings, this is something they will bring up. So are you going to be doing a reverse stock split? So other than that though, it's good to see that Apple isn't one of the top questions, because I think at this stage in the game, it's fair to assume that Apple might demand a little bit too much from Lucid, more specifically just the number of vehicles that they can produce and whatever else. So let me know your thoughts on that. But with all that said, let's talk on some technicals. Right now, with it at $4.12, it is between this S1 and the pivot. So in comparison to a lot of the other EVs, it's not doing too bad. Of course, this is just the short-term view, so the 4-hour view. If we kind of look larger on the 1-day view, yeah, Lucid's definitely getting killed. But as far as the next big support and resistance points, $3.98 is going to be that line in the sand, the very strong support, and coincidentally, that is that 52-week and all-time low. So that's something to really watch for in the coming days. Vice versa, $4.17 is going to be the next strong resistance, and it kind of did bounce off of that today. So I do feel tomorrow with the Fed decision rate, there's going to be a hell of a lot of volatility, but I think in my own opinion, it might be positive. So I think Lucid could actually test potentially that 450 leading into the upcoming earnings, and then depends on what comes from that, then the price will dictate based on all that. And so once again, just taking a look at this is all the support and resistance points, the different levels, but it is kind of wide. So you just have to anticipate that there is going to be a lot of volatility in the short term. Starting at this though, looking at the momentum indicator shows number of retail investors we're getting in, and stochastic is currently at 5. So that's considered very oversold. So if there's a positive spin to their upcoming earnings, definitely that is going to play a very big part and have a lot of value investors come into Lucid. So let me know your thoughts on Lucid in the comments below. Give yourself a shout out if you have been buying, selling, holding, what you have been doing with Lucid in the comments. And obviously this right here is associated with the after hours volume that I did kind of point out to you. So a lot of big money is looking at Lucid. But if you haven't already, don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And one final thing, take advantage of this promo. It even does show Lucid in the little advertisement right there. But sign up for an account with Moonbit, throw $100 at it, and you get 5 free stocks. Each stock is valued up to $2,000. So take advantage of this. Link in the description below and also the comments. With all of that said, I appreciate all of you watching.